Here we go, YouTube. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. Thanks for tuning in on Twitch or on YouTube. Let's see here. Happy Saturday to you all. Hope you're having a great weekend so far. Couple of weeks ago, I talked about a few points to improve just like general musicianship, basic musicianship. And, one of those was singing. And there were a couple of lessons the past few weeks about those. Another point about general musicianship that I wanted to talk about was listening. And it may seem like what's there to talk about, but I think that there is a lot to talk about, and I'm going to share with you in terms of listening. There's passive listening and there's active listening. Passive listening is, you've got music playing in the background while you're doing the dishes. And active listening is when you sit down and focus all your attention on some music. And that's kind of what I'm going to be talking about today. And the first point that I want to bring up is when we're actively listening, one of the first questions that I ask myself is, what instruments are playing? Is there a singer? Is there a bass guitar? Are there drums? Is there an electric guitar? Is there a piano? Are there synthesizers? Is there a trumpet? What instruments are playing? What information is being given to me just based on what people are playing? And let's see here. Another thing that kind of encompasses is what range is the music in? Is it really bassy? Is there a lot of treble in there? It's really high. Wherever you are at is a great place to start. If you don't know what instruments are being played, then the question you should ask yourself is, well, does it sound low? Or does it sound in the middle? Or does it sound high? And just figure it out from there. No matter what level you're at, you've always got building blocks to use. And that's a building block to get you to what instruments are being played. Was this information low, medium, or high in terms of the frequency? Another thing to listen for is this music major? Is this music minor? Is this music kind of nebulous? Does it go back and forth between the two? What exactly is happening with these chords? Then you can get to, is there a pulse in this music? Meaning, does it have a beat? This music give me? And I think that's a question that we don't ask ourselves enough of. And we don't need to define the emotion. You'd be like, well, it's a hint of this with a touch of that and some of this. We don't need to necessarily, that's great if you can define it, but if you can't define it, that's not a problem. The important thing is the question. How does this make me feel? And on the flip side of that is the question, let me make sure, what does this music make me think? And I think that there are kind of like two approaches to music. How do I think about this music? And how does I feel about this music? And most people are able to do both of those things at once to some degree or the other. Maybe some people will be a little bit more interested in what they think about. Some people may be a little bit more interested in how this music makes them feel. But they're both valid points. And the more you listen, the more you will start to learn what kind of listener you are, I believe. And in terms of what does the music make me think, music can either ask you questions or it can give you answers, or if it's fantastic music, it will hopefully do both. And a lot of times those can come across in lyrics. That's like a very black and white way to ask a question, is through words. But sonically, you can ask questions as well. And sonically, you can give answers as well. You just have to maybe listen a little bit differently. But like I said, some people love music with words, and that's great. And some people are not into that, and that's great too. And it's just kind of like who you are and what you're drawn to. Which kind of brings me to my next point. I won't get there just yet. Hold that thought. But I will get to how to listen to a piece of music, right? So say you're going to do some active listening or deep listening or whatever you would like to call it. You're going to pay attention, basically, is what I think it means. And let's say you put on a piece of music and press play. There's a few different things that you can do. When I was in college, something that I would do a lot of was I would listen to one song and I would listen to one element within the song, really focus in on that element. And then when the song finished, I would play it again and choose a new element to listen to. And I would do that a lot with like jazz recordings. So I would zero in on what the drummer was playing for a pass through of the song. And after I listened to what the drummer was playing, I would zero in on what the piano player was playing. And I would really concentrate on what the piano player was playing. And then I would kind of pull out, listen to the song again, and I would zero in on what the bass player was playing. And it's a really satisfying experience, and it's really educational in terms of learning how a song works. If you can zone in on all the individual elements that make the music an entire piece. Sitting and listening to one song for 30 minutes, that was a thing, that was a thing. Another practice that I did was I would take an album and listen to it every day for a month. Now, a lot of times I would do this in my youth just on accident, because I think you hear something and you kind of get obsessed with it, especially when you're younger and you want to just keep hearing it again and again. So, I mean, there's probably times where I listened to, some Jimi Hendrix album for a month straight without even realizing that I was doing it as a particular exercise. But as I got a little bit older, I started to specifically do that, as in I was going to listen to this entire album, and then stay with it for a month and see how my hearing evolved. If you're open to it, you can hear new things. You'll start to pick up on new details, whatever details those may be. Maybe an instrument is playing some notes that you didn't hear, or maybe an instrument has a specific tonal quality to it that you didn't notice on the first listen. It's an infinite number of things. But this deep attention to an album is very educational. Kind of on the flip side of that, I would try to listen to an album that I had never heard, maybe once a day or once a week. Sometimes, that's a lot of time to listen to a completely new album that you've never heard. But the idea is, whatever time schedule you're on, is to just constantly seek out new music and check it out, in addition to what you're already listening to. Here we go. It's the familiar versus the new. The familiar is, it's kind of like you're right. It's like this, I have the right to listen to this music because because I relate to it, and it's what I enjoy, and it's a part of who I am. So I have the right to listen to my familiar music. And on the flip side of that coin, you have the responsibility to listen to music that is new to you, so that you know what the world is enjoying, and this helps you relate externally to other people. It's a fine balance, listening to what you enjoy and learning from it versus listening to something that you don't even know anything about and trying to find what you enjoy in it. And the end goal is to just inform yourself musically. Let's see here. It's all about the balance. And the thing with the balance is you get to choose. At the end of the day, you get to choose what is balancing on these two scales. I couldn't think of it earlier. I was trying to think. You've got a scale here and a scale here, and whatever is the middle point, you get to choose that middle point. For example, if you are going to say, on my right hand, I'm only going to listen to rock music from the 1980s, and on the left hand, you're saying, I only am going to listen to rock music from the 1970s. The middle point is going to be 1980. So you've got 1980 and on up rock music, and 1979 and on down rock music. And you can say, that's my thing. That's what I'm going to listen to. And that's what I'm going to balance, is some of this and some of that. Or you can expand those scales out and be like, okay, I'm going to listen to rock music and I'm going to listen to jazz music. And you listen to equal amounts of both familiar and new, right? The familiar and new is its own separate scale. And then this other scale is where you get to choose kind of the balance. And it can go on down to, you're going to listen to everything, right? This scale can get very broad. And it's up to you to decide where you want these, definitions to land. If you really, really, really love rock music, let's see if we can even narrow it down. If you really, really love rock music, and you can say, I love rock music from 1980 and 1979, and I'm going to listen to nothing else. That's fine. But learn everything about those rock musics from 1980 and 1979. It's about balance. It's about balance. There is a funny story. I hope it relates. There's a funny story that I heard about Miles Davis. Miles Davis made a famous jazz album called Kind of Blue. And someone was out hanging out with Miles Davis, and Miles Davis had a couple of horses. And so Miles said, "This is my horse, Blue." And then he pointed to his other horse and he goes, "And this is my horse, Kind of Blue." I thought that was hilarious, and so did the guy who told the story. And it's just kind of an indication of, you decide what's going to be on the sides. You've got blue on this side, you've got kind of blue on that side. You decide where that lands. You could have said blue on this side and orange on this side. Blue and orange are opposite colors. But you get to decide what is the line that the line of reflection, I guess you could call it. So I hope that was helpful. I hope it made some sense. The idea is to just get us listening more and to be conscious of what we're listening to, and to also get us to expand what we're listening to. If anybody would like to talk some more about this, if anybody wants to take some lessons, some theory or some music history or some production lessons, hit me up. I offer 100% money back guarantee. And I will see you next Saturday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, and I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you all then. Bye-bye.